Welcome to the Global Wired, bringing you the latest news from around the world. In a move that has stunned the world, Beijing has accepted a reunification framework proposed by Taipei, ending over 75 years of separation across the Taiwan Strait. On July 28, 2025, both Chinese and Taiwanese leaders confirmed the agreement, signaling a seismic shift in the Indo-Pacific order. For decades, Taiwan's status has been the most sensitive issue in US-China relations, a flashpoint with global implications. The sudden move toward peaceful unification forces a fundamental reassessment of security alliances and the balance of power in Asia. Beijing's statement praised the Taipei framework for peaceful cross-strait integration as a historic step, while Taiwan's leadership framed it as a guarantee of autonomy and democracy. The coordinated messaging hints at long, secretive negotiations and a strategy to manage both internal dissent and international reaction. As world leaders scramble to respond, the reality sets in. Integrating two vastly different systems, authoritarian China and democratic Taiwan, will be a complex, unprecedented process. The agreement is just the beginning of a new chapter, with the future to be shaped by difficult negotiations and compromises. The world now watches as 1.4 billion mainlanders and 24 million Taiwanese embark on this historic journey. To grasp the magnitude of today's breakthrough, we must revisit the roots of the cross-strait divide. In 1949, after losing the Civil War, Chiang Kai-shek's government fled to Taiwan, establishing the Republic of China in exile, while Mao Zedong founded the People's Republic of China on the mainland. This split created the Two Chinas dilemma, fueling decades of military tension and diplomatic isolation for Taipei. The US initially recognized Taiwan, but by 1979, shifted recognition to Beijing, passing the Taiwan Relations Act to maintain unofficial ties and support Taiwan's defense. Over time, Taiwan transformed into a vibrant democracy, forging a distinct identity separate from the mainland. Beijing, however, has always viewed Taiwan as a breakaway province, vowing reunification by force if necessary. This clash of identity and sovereignty has triggered repeated crises, even as economic ties flourished from the late 1980s onward. Taiwanese investment in the mainland deepened economic interdependence, creating both opportunities and leverage. The paradox of economic integration amid political hostility defined cross-strait relations for decades. It's within this complex web of history, identity, and shared interests that the current agreement emerged. The breakthrough is not just a diplomatic feat, but the product of decades of evolution, tension, and reluctant cooperation. Now, the world must reckon with the consequences of this new reality. The next steps will test the resilience of both societies and the international order. The Taipei Framework for Peaceful Cross-Strait Integration is a carefully crafted, multi-stage plan. It avoids the one country, two systems model, instead proposing a one China respective systems approach, a confederation preserving Taiwan's autonomy. The first decade focuses on economic and social integration, a common market, joint infrastructure, and free movement, while Taiwan keeps its military and government. The second phase introduces a cross-strait council for joint governance and coordinated security, with Taiwan's forces rebranded as a regional defense force. The final decade envisions full integration, but leaves the ultimate political structure open, hinting at a new constitution. This phased, flexible approach made the deal palatable to both sides, offering Beijing a symbolic victory and Taipei a long runway to preserve its democracy. The framework's success will depend on trust, patience, and the ability to adapt as challenges arise. Why did Beijing accept a plan from Taipei, breaking with decades of hardline policy? China faces economic headwinds and demographic challenges. A peaceful resolution offers President Xi a legacy-defining achievement and a distraction from domestic woes. Internationally, Beijing neutralizes a major source of friction, recasting itself as a peacemaker and undermining anti-China alliances. For Taipei, the plan is a pragmatic response to growing military imbalance and the constant threat of invasion. By shaping the terms, Taiwan's leaders secured autonomy and democracy, trading the dream of formal independence for long-term security. The framework's phased integration and preservation of Taiwan's system was a bold gamble, one Beijing, for its own reasons, accepted. In Taipei, the move is framed not as surrender, but as a strategic masterstroke to safeguard Taiwan's way of life. Both sides now face the challenge of turning this high-stakes gamble into lasting peace. The world's reaction to the cross-strait agreement is a mix of cautious optimism and deep anxiety. The US publicly supports a peaceful voluntary resolution, but behind the scenes, it's reassessing its entire Indo-Pacific strategy. Japan, alarmed by China's expanded reach, is urgently consulting allies and reviewing its defense posture. The EU hopes for stability, but warns that Taiwan's promised autonomy must be real, drawing lessons from Hong Kong. Allies like Australia and South Korea worry that China's success could embolden further territorial ambitions. Meanwhile, Beijing's partners, including Russia, hail the deal as a diplomatic victory. The agreement has forced a rapid recalculation of interests across the Indo-Pacific. As the regional order shifts, nations are scrambling to adapt to a more China-centric reality. The world is watching closely to see if this peace holds, or if new tensions will emerge. The economic impact of integration is immediate and far-reaching, especially for the global tech sector. Taiwan's dominance in semiconductors, led by TSMC, is now under a new China-led entity, raising concerns about supply chain security for the West. A cross-strait common market could create an economic powerhouse combining Taiwan's innovation with China's scale. While this promises efficiency and growth, it also risks market dominance and challenges for international competitors. Financial markets are volatile, as investors weigh reduced conflict risk against regulatory uncertainty and questions about intellectual property. The future of the new Taiwan dollar and its integration with the yuan is a major unknown. For global businesses, the China Plus One strategy is upended, forcing a rethink of supply chains and diversification. The world's manufacturing and investment patterns may shift dramatically as Asia's economic geography is redrawn. The peaceful framework transforms the Taiwan Strait from a flashpoint to a domestic waterway, removing the main trigger for US-China conflict. The US must now rethink its military presence in East Asia, as the defense of Taiwan is no longer its central mission. For China, gaining access to Taiwan's ports and airfields breaks the first island chain, boosting its ability to project power into the Pacific. This shift alarms US allies like Japan and the Philippines, who now face a new security environment. Expect intensified defense cooperation and a focus on the second island chain as the new front line. Security pacts like AUKUS will become even more important as counterweights to China's growing influence. The future of US bases in the region is now in question, with Beijing likely arguing they're no longer needed. The US and its allies must redefine their security partnerships for a new era, one where China is more powerful than ever. The Indo-Pacific's balance of power is being rewritten without a single shot fired. The fate of integration rests with the people of Taiwan and mainland China. In Taiwan, reactions range from relief to fierce opposition, especially among younger generations who fear losing their democracy. On the mainland, state media hails the deal as a triumph, but some question the concessions made to Taiwan. Media will play a crucial role. Taiwan's free press will scrutinize every step, while China's controlled media pushes the official line. This information gap could fuel mistrust and misinformation, threatening the fragile process. Bridging decades of divergent identities and values will be a generational challenge. Educational exchanges and joint cultural projects may help, but the tension between democracy and authoritarianism will persist. The battle for hearts and minds will shape whether integration leads to reconciliation or renewed conflict. Success depends on patience, open dialogue, and respect for differences on both sides. Turning the framework into reality will be a monumental challenge. The first hurdle reconciling Taiwan's democratic constitution with the mainland's one-party system. New joint legal institutions must be created to manage shared governance and resolve disputes. Social integration will be equally tough as two societies with different values and freedoms begin to mix. The free movement of people will test both sides' tolerance and adaptability, yet, opportunities abound. Joint innovation in technology, education, and environmental protection could build trust and deliver real benefits. The 30-year timeline allows for gradual adaptation, but also leaves room for political shifts and unforeseen crises. Success will require political will, diplomatic skill, and public patience. The world will watch as this bold experiment unfolds. By 2055, the outcome will redefine not just China and Taiwan, but the global order itself.